Hello everybody, Jose Rodriguez here. We're going to cover a little subject that seems to be quite popular in the various forums. People trying to print an image that they supposedly size to a specific dimension, and they want it to fit inside a larger paper, and they want to define the borders as they wish to have them, and then they are wondering, why did my image get cropped? In other words, they did not want their image cropped. So let's go ahead and explore how to achieve this without losing a single pixel from your image and still attain the size that you want it to be on the size of paper that you want to actually print on. Let's go ahead and jump over to Photoshop. All right, so I have opened up one of my files from my Nikon D3300. It produces 4,000 by 6,000 pixel images. We'll go ahead and check that out. Image size, and here we go. So right now it is at 333.333 pixels per inch. We will just simply leave that alone because the driver will actually set the resolution for us within Lightroom to print at the correct native resolution that Canon or Epson in that case requires. So we'll go ahead and just hit OK at that point, and we will save this. And we'll jump over to Lightroom and we'll import this image into Lightroom. And here we go. We're going to go ahead and import this image. We'll go to the Develop tab, but there's really nothing much that we need to do. We're going to go ahead and perform the important steps, and that is to print this on a paper of our choice, which in this case will be 13 by 19. And we want it to fit perfectly, okay, without any kind of cropping taking place. So as was stated, we wanted to make this 18 inches by 12, and that's how we want it to fit on that paper. The image is already 18 by 12. So again, even if we zoom to fill, nothing is being removed. You see that? There is no cropping taking place. Now, one trick that you have to perform in order to get a perfectly even border is that for some reason, you have to set it to borderless. It's going to give you the warning. We're not really going to print borderless. We're just going to allow the margins to be brought to 0. So now we have an 18 by 12 inch cell. Did you get what I just said? A cell. That is a window onto which an image can be loaded on. Half inch, half inch, half inch, half inch. Perfectly. Zoom to fill. Nothing was cropped. You see that? Nothing whatsoever was cropped. And that's what a lot of people do not do. You need to size your image to the specific cell size you want to print on. Create that cell size on Lightroom, and then go ahead and set your driver to borderless. Otherwise, the leading and trailing edges are going to have different size borders. That is exactly what happens every single time with every single driver out there, okay? You have to remember that. Set it to borderless. That way you can then bring your margins down to nothing, 0. You cannot do that if you are not in borderless fashion. What you will end up with is a wider border on the trailing edge, a narrower border on the leading edge, and equal borders on the right and left in this particular orientation, okay? So that's what you have to do. Right now, we have a perfect situation. Our image, which we checked in Photoshop, is perfectly sized to 12 by 18, which then we loaded onto a 13 by 19 inch paper. And that was then laid upon a 18 by 12 cell. We brought all the margins down to 0. Boom, perfect. Now, keep in mind, the 12 by 18 is a perfect 2:3 ratio, 4,000 by 6,000 pixels. 13 by 19, it is not a 2:3 ratio. It is not. So the minute you start changing the cell sizes, just simply changing a cell size and maintaining equal borders does not mean that cell is still 2:3. No, it's not. I will show you that. We'll change this 1 more inch. Make it 17 by 11. Look what happens now. Watch. You see that? It's no longer 2:3. I have to crop. I have to crop a bit of my image. So keep that in mind. Crop your image initially to the correct ratio you wish to print on, and then create a cell in the dimensions of that particular saved image. In this case, the image was 12 by 18. We'll go ahead and switch that again, and boom, we are back to a zero crop situation. As I toggle zoom to fill on and off, nothing is being cropped. So that's what you have to do. All right, let's go over to QImage and do the same thing there. And this will work whether you have QImage Ultimate or QImage 1 for Mac and or Windows. We're going to go ahead and open our one that we edited. Boom. It should load up in a second here. Now we're going to set our driver to a specific paper size. So we have the P800 in this case. Let's jump over to the Pro 1000 since that's what we used the previous time. And we'll go ahead and click on the Pro 1000. So how to do this? Well, we have to set the driver again to borderless. 13 by 19. And boom. Now we are ready. We have equal borders on the top and bottom, but those are not the size borders we want, right? We want to create a space that measures 12 by 18 inside this 13 by 19 inch paper. We do that here. We go to Prints, Custom. In Custom, we're going to create a specific size. And I believe this is the height, and the first number is the width. So we'll go ahead and try that and see if that's indeed the case. Yes, and indeed it is. Now all we have to do is load it. Boom, look at that. No cropping whatsoever. We can check that by clicking here. Auto cropping, no cropping is taking place. Look at that. So that's how you do it. It's very simple, folks. And when you print this, if you locate your paper perfectly on your printer's feeder, it will print very, very accurate. Now keep in mind that paper positioning is never going to be an exact science. It will shift from left to right slightly, okay? As the paper is being grabbed, you may end up with a slightly wider or narrower leading or trailing edge. It's just the nature of the beast, as I say. Printers cannot assure you 100% accuracy when it comes to paper placement. So don't be surprised if you still get a slight, infinitesimally wider border on one of the edges. That is just the way it is. Okay? Paper positioning is not that exact. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, it's very simple. Create those crops to the size you want them to appear on a piece of paper of a given size. Then create those borders. That paper has to be the correct size to allow you to have, for instance, a 1/2 inch border and still then provide what is left, a 12 by 18 space onto which you lay your image on top, and it fits perfectly. Okay, no cropping needs to be done in order to make it fit. You see what I'm saying? So that is all it is. It's very simple. Again, you can save these settings in QImage as a job and always have that template ready to go, onto which you can always lay your 12 by 18 image that has been cropped to 12 by 18, of course, and then go ahead and print. You'll be able to repeat this over and over and over again without having to go back to figure out how the heck did I achieve this. Save it as a job. QImage Ultimate allows you to do that. If you have any questions about that, just ask them below. Again, I'll be happy to answer you. Anyway, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll be back soon with more content, positioning, arranging, layout work in Lightroom and in QImage. So don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye.